shit, it's been a while since I've done anything like this, so this should be rather interesting to say the least. Hopefully that right there is level the way I need it to be. So, anywho, I guess we'll just go ahead and try it as best we can, and we'll go from there, right? Right. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is DSP News, the unreliable ones. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the newsroom, and welcome to the Galtopia News Network, your unreliable source for DSP News. This is the Snort Report, brought to you by SnortBucks Coffee Company, the best beverage company. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, how you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are doing well. I first owe you guys an apology. Amongst many apologies, I'm sure, but I owe you guys an apology. So, as you guys know, it's probably like a week or two back, we were supposed to get a week of Review Tech USA, and I was privied to some information that I didn't know previous to that, and that kind of messed things up in the fact that all of us here at GTG Network and Productions had to be like, okay, well, what do we do about this? And so on and so forth. We're hopefully going to come to a resolution on that. It's probably not going to be something that everybody's going to like, but we'll more than likely come to a resolution about that soon. And whatever will go up, if anything goes up, by the way. So that's a thing. Yeah, that's a thing. So my apologies on that, to be honest. I know the uploading schedule's kind of been off. We've been kind of taking clips of certain stuff, and then I've been reacting to those things. Those were things that I thought that would be pivotal, or at least other people thought that I would think it'd be pivotal. It was, for the most part. So that's kind of why you guys had that. Sorry about the fact that there wasn't a premiere stream that week. There might be one this week that I'm recording, if not, at least next week, so that will come back. I'm also working on a lot of stuff for the second channel, especially because, like, I'm gonna literally take on FloFilz, like, FGC career and whatnot. Like, I'm like, it's time to expose that shit for the farce that it is. But before I do that, well, while I'm doing that, I also want to expose from his retrospective stream about the what was that? His early YouTube career, and how that was all fraudulent, and how that shit needs to get exposed. So much on the plate. So anyway, but my apologies about a lot of that. Speaking of which, and that's where the next apology is going to come into play. I think when I was starting most of this up, I was probably like back in like April, when I was trying to do all this catch up. Essentially, another vote has been made here to go ahead and jump up to July. And then once I'm caught up, essentially I'll work my way back and kind of, it'll still be somewhat in order, at least from a monthly standpoint, but I'm falling too far behind because I've got all these other side projects, and then I got life and shit like that, and so on and so forth. But I need to kind of catch up. One of the reasons is because of Phil's current state of mind, how he's cracking, which is fucking hilarious, and how, just as I told you guys, that vest streak was going to come back to haunt him in more ways than one, as I've spoken about, which we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute, but then I actually have a video that we'll talk about that further. Big ups to Mighty D on that. But it feels good to come back to the Snort Report in its full luster, if you will. So that's a thing. Real quick, as it pertains to the vest streak, like I said, I will have a video that'll be dedicated to that. What did I tell you guys from the very beginning of that damn thing? I told you that he was downplaying it for a couple of different reasons. We'll get into that further when the video actually comes out, but one of the main things is he didn't want to be mentally reliant on it. Phil doesn't handle success well, especially as something that Almighty Tevin said recently, praise be, about Phil always finds a way to take a good thing and fuck it up. Truer words have never been spoken, to be honest. That's why Tevin said it. Phil went out of his way to screw himself over and sowed all this dissent within it, within this vest streak, and doubting these people, his followers, that cult over there, if you will. And it's come back to haunt him. And it's come back to haunt him now because, on top of the fact that he was already downplaying it and saying that it could end at any given time, and basically shitting on the fan base giving him this money, he was also mentally trying not to rely on this money. You know, $200 a day, guaranteed, essentially, was more than Phil could handle. Way more than Phil could handle. Which goes to show, ladies and gentlemen, how little self-control this man has. Haha. I got no self-control, but also how little of actual financial responsibility that's been instilled in this man. Now, granted, most of you are going to say, well, come on, GTG, you just went ahead and got through a bankruptcy. Should we be surprised by that? Sorry about that. No, but here's the thing. He hasn't learned. This is what James the Lesser, LSB, Base Oslo, Robin Zeppa, myself, Agent Proper, that's what a bunch of us told you, that this bankruptcy wasn't going to be a goddamn thing. It doesn't mean anything. He's going to make the same mistakes the moment a line of credit or a loan will be made available to him. You're seeing this now. You're seeing this all right. Well, you've seen it, I should say, over however many invest streaks is at, like 170 or whatever it is. Now he's so mentally fucked and he's so financially dependent on this money that now he's doing anything he can to keep it going, which is absolutely pathetic. And then I'm hearing this nonsense about, oh, I'm not going to go into overtime anymore. I'm not going to go into overtime anymore. Fuck that. Make him go into overtime. And he'll do it too. Wait until the last goddamn minute to give him this money, which people are already doing, and we'll see what's what. You know what I'm saying? Force him into overtime, because if he has to go into overtime, then you guys may actually find out who's actually giving all this money, suspiciously enough. How and when that money is usually given up, which will help narrow down who's actually doing it. And more importantly than that, it's the desperation. Who doesn't want to see a pig sweat doing something that he hates day in, day out, and turned, for at least a little while, one of his greatest strengths into now the bane of his existence? I mean, is it as ultra entertaining as maybe early in the year? Not necessarily, because I know a lot of people are kind of burnt out, but it's something. It's something rather funny, because he's slowly but surely going to tear himself apart. You know what I mean? And then I'm hearing now that he's blaming detractors, and now he wants to take on Kiwi Farms again, as if the first time that happened, there wasn't casualties. King of Hate, the King of Hate forums kind of proved that. What happened to Brightside Viking kind of proves that. What happens to a lot of them dudes? You know what I'm saying? In the first war with Kiwi Farms, shit didn't work out. Now you want to do it again? And you think you're going to bring the police into it? Which cements Phil as a lolcow, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me. Because he's doing nothing. He's not doing anything right now that any other lolcow hasn't tried to do. Try to sue Kiwi Farms, try to get it taken down, try to get the police or the FBI involved. Come on, man. Come on, man. Anyway, I need to catch up and whatnot. So expect these to kind of come out fast and furious and whatnot. So that's a thing. Miss y'all. Hopefully you guys are doing well and whatnot. Just in case you guys didn't know, our friend Paul W. actually wrote a book. He actually wrote 2. I'm going to start plugging those very, very soon. So any of you guys from the second channel, you already know that. If you are from the second channel, you may not know there's actually a second book that's already out. So I'll privy you guys to that later. But enough of that now. Let's go ahead and get into the entertainment. Hopefully you guys are doing well. This is going to be kind of shaky because I haven't done this format in a bit. But I think it'll be fun to get back into it. And like I said, playing catch up. Everything from... I will eventually catch up on everything that I've missed. So just give me some time on that. Also, yet again, my apologies with the Review Tech USA stuff. Hopefully we come to a resolution about that soon. I think that's about it. I think that's everything on the chopping block, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys already know what the situation. This is the Snort Report. This is DSP News, always late, never breaking. Unreliable coverage that you can't count on. Oh yes, a GTG, Networking Productions. You guys all know the slogan. I don't smell no bacon cooking. But we got to get on that right now. Right now. So grab your SnortBucks. And let's go ahead and get this. Because it's time, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to watch me work.
Disgusting.
Sound good?
Alright, sounds good to me.
What the hell?
One could hope. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're here with the first video that will make up our broadcast. This is going to be a twofer. Both of them brought to us by Burnell, DSP. Let's see here, because now they actually have everything set up a little differently now compared to the way I was doing it. Let's see here. Overflowing toxicity. Let's see. Mature adult reacts to the Abby scene. Oh, that should be good. Oh boy, no lubrication or anything. Anyway, and let's see. Constant complaining about the game. This came out July 1st of 2020, our current year of gout. Oh boy, I can kind of see why they formatted this now. It's actually kind of, it's kind of convenient. I don't know, I like kind of having it all written down, but whatever. Anyway, let's get it. No, Abby, no!
What is this? Alright, guys, get out of here. You're out of here. I'm serious. Fuck this. Goodbye.
I'm just gonna fucking ban everybody. It's gonna be a very simple situation where I just go ban, 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 and that's it. And then I continue playing and I don't care.
I'm sorry, guys, but I warned people ahead of time not to do copy pastas and not to talk about the vest constantly tonight, and we already got people doing it, and now they're out of here. I just got 2. Oh, I'm gonna get some more. Here we go. People can't say I didn't warn them tonight. There's no way you can say I didn't warn you tonight, because I had a whole segment on the pre-stream about it. I said, don't do it, you know. So here's 4. I'm still going. I'm gonna keep going back. People thought I was fucking around. I'm not fucking around. Who else did it? Here we go. 5. Here we go. Goodbye.
Has anybody noticed that too, by the way? That he's become much more irritable as of late? It's not just the fact that he won the bankruptcy, even though the foreclosure's still hanging over his head. Because, what's that, Mid-First isn't going to let that go, I don't think. So they still coming for his pork rinds on that. But since the beginning of this vest streak, he's become more and more irritable and more dejected, I guess, in a lot of ways, over just the past couple of months. Like, you would think getting $130,000, my apologies, plus dismissed, and then figuring out a way to convince these idiots, these mental midget monkeys, to give you, what, over $17,000, you would be rather happy about your circumstances. You would think you'd be on cloud 9. Well, if James the Lesser serves me right, he's been kicked out of like 6 or 7 guilds, maybe 9 on WWE Champions. I guess that's hurtful. And now he's trying to convince people to give him a new Nintendo Switch or some shit. Like, what the fuck? Like, theoretically, everything is going his way. Outside of taxes, which he has the money for that, ladies and gentlemen. Like, let's not be delusional about it. For whatever reason, this moron really thought that, okay, if I get all this shit, like, knocked off of my bankruptcy, well, maybe they'll go ahead and just wipe my slate clean on my back taxes as well. He kind of really thought that. It didn't work out, because why would it? But he really was kind of banking on that a little bit. If you go back and listen to some of those things, he was kind of hint to some of that a little bit. Which is kind of silly, but semantics. I mean, granted, if he was smart, which Phil isn't, he would have just went ahead and charged all of that to those credit cards before he got all of that, well, up to that point anyway, before he got dismissed. There's actually a theory, well, it's a theory that I'm just now kind of formulating, that he might have, which means that some of this back taxes bullshit may not exist. And I've already said that I feel like the state and business occupation tax doesn't exist either. Because when you go back and you look at his filing for his bankruptcy, he only lists federal. He didn't say shit about state and business occupation tax, which supposedly he was still paying at that time. Or at least he still owed it. But semantics. But yeah, he's been extremely irritable for somebody who has everything going his way. You know what I'm saying? You were able to get 3 major detractors kicked off of YouTube. You had a few very pivotal and very influential detractors on Twitter in a very uncomfortable situation for a little while. You got your bankruptcy. You went ahead and figured out a way to get 17 grand theoretically everything should be going proper. I mean, yeah, granted, you and your wife are idiots and you can't run an air fryer, but you know, semantics. Not everybody can. Beggars can't be choosers, right, Phil? Right, Phil? Right. So what are we upset about? In the grand scheme of things, what are we upset about? Womp womp. DSP News? Feels good.
Alright, it's 5 down. Let's keep going. Alright, I got 5. Good. We got that shit out of the way right at the start of the stream. Now I can just focus on the game. It's probably the 5 fucking people who sit there and constantly spam that shit on my stream every day anyway. Alright? So tough shit. I don't care. Oh, I came in with a raid. I literally said for like a whole 5-minute segment before the stream tonight, I don't want any copy pasta, no spam about shit coming up, no spam about the vest tonight, nothing. And they come in and do it immediately. You're out of here. Good night. Good night and good luck. Maybe you should have fucking listened. Maybe you should have listened up instead of being immature idiots.
Why am I toxic? More toxic, more toxic. Doesn't matter if they came in from a raid. They're watching the stream. No.
I don't care if you came in from a raid, if you came in from fucking, you know, Burger King, or you came in from the coastline. I don't care where you came from. You have to abide by the same rules as everybody else. If you don't like that, well, sounds like a personal problem that you can deal with yourself.
So much for that organic growth, right? So much for all those collaborations, right? So much for all those opportunities that other streamers get, right? So much for those just, you know, generally being looked at differently, right? And not as a toxic piece of shit that all these people, all these, you know, all these crazy people out here, all these people that need to be picked up by the white coats, right? Unlike, you know, everything that let's reword that. Unlike everything that my detractors, trolls, haters, and critics say about me, I'm actually a good person. I just wish people would come in and give me a chance. People are trying to come in and give you a chance, and look at what you're doing. He's literally fucked up his own narrative. It's almost as if, ladies and gentlemen, that whole DSP positive was all bullshit and has been bullshit for years. And each and every year, he's become more and more lazy and he can't keep up with his own narrative. So, therefore, the narrative doesn't exist anymore. And it's something that happens as regularly as raids, right? He still hasn't figured out how to just... He hasn't just figured out how to just let it go. How is it that we're supposed to be playing the game, right, ladies and gentlemen, and entertaining, right, as a, you know, what's the wording that he uses? As a live impromptu, abridged streamer, right, reactive streamer, and yet we're sitting there knee-deep in our chat. We're not actually playing the game. We're sitting there looking for people to ban in our chat, which might be a game within a game if you think about it, but even still. It's almost like we really hate what the fuck we're doing, right? And we have to find enjoyment for ourselves. And the only enjoyment that we can really find is by basically flexing what little bit of influence that we have in this little bit of a safe space that he's able to garner for himself. And that's it. It's almost like games aren't fun at all. It's almost like he's not a lifetime gamer or a lifelong gamer. It's almost as if maybe doing this shit for a hobby was never for a hobby. It was just an easy lick that he's been able to do for years. And he sacrificed his public image, his personal life, and any type of self-respect in IRL or online for shekels. For small money in the much bigger picture of it. For any of you who followed me from the second channel, you know what I mean by that. While people were putting themselves in position to make hundreds of thousands, if not millions, right? Not just in the immediate future, but later on down the line with big sponsorships and so on and so forth, DSP, Darkside Phil, Dark Geppetto, sat there and was clinging on to thousands. Clinging on to thousands. He couldn't see the big picture. He only grabbed for what he could. For what was at the end of his hoof. He couldn't see past that. Hence the reason why he's at where he's at now. Imagine that.
No, I'm not singing a song, and if you spam that again, you're out of here too. Someone apparently has been spamming the same thing for like 10 minutes in the stream chat, giant paragraph. They want me to sing a Joan Osborne song. Fuck no. That Anonymous cheered. It's a good job laying down the law. You're the Joffrey Lannister we need. I don't know about being Joffrey. I don't know if I agree with this one. That's probably
being how, you know, Joffrey ended up meeting his end, which would be rather befitting in an internet type way, if you will. In Minecraft, if you will. Watching Phil sit there and literally be poisoned and suffocate to death on stream would probably be the highlight of his life, but it wouldn't be as entertaining as you would think. Now, watching Phil slowly but surely strangle his public image online, that's another thing in itself. That's always hilarious.
Very bad analogy. But seriously, can you think of...
No, it's kind of befitting. You went ahead and you had a child be put into the position of a man, and he couldn't handle it, and he misused it, and the people around him used him for their own whims until essentially he wasn't useful anymore. And that was it. Like, even those in his family didn't take that as a real serious loss. Well, his mother did, but you know, something caved in on her later on. Spoiler alert. So it is what it is. She met her proper end either which way. It was no big loss. He was merely a placeholder anyway.
Any other place of business where people could just walk in, do whatever the hell they want, and then after the fact be like, oh, I didn't know the rules or the law here, you know? I didn't know that you couldn't just, like, play basketball inside of a restaurant. I didn't know that. I thought I could just come in and do whatever I want, scream at the top of my lungs, rip my shirt off, throw it above my head, pull out vuvuzelas.
And this is the reason why he fails. This is one of the fundamental reasons why he fails. Because he's so desperate to try to equate himself to an actual business, as most e-beggars do. They try to equate themselves to be actual businesses that in actuality, in duality in a lot of ways, you can't do that because of the environment that you're in. You're in a digital space, which is driven upon public opinion, right? Like that crowdfunding thing that he likes to go with, right? So, with that being said, the rules are skewed. If you want to run a restaurant, or if you want to run a store or whatever, then go run a store. If you're going to be in a public space where anybody can walk in, right, and be able to say whatever they want, then guess what? You have to kind of deal with that. There should be a level of tolerance for these things, right? Especially for people who are rating you. This dick sucker right here don't want to do that. He wants to have complete and utter control. If that's the case, then why won't this ass clown just keep his streams in sub-only mode, like other successful streamers? Why not just do that? Oh, because if he does that, then the very people that are over there probably won't say anything. And then he would just go ahead and be eliminating people who just are given gifted subs over and over and over again, and that's going to fuck up the sub goal. He'd be strangling himself doing that. So he's forced to keep it open to the public. But at the same time, you get... It's not even a rant. You just get spouting off like this. Which for anybody who had never watched Darkside Phil before this point, and you're coming in on a raid, you're being like, well, why is he acting like this? And no one's going to take, as in Darkside Phil's own words, no one's going to take 5 minutes to go and look at his background to figure out why he's acting like this. No one's going to care. You're going to judge him at face value, as most people do. Yet again, he can't see that. He wants to go ahead and act like this fucking giant man baby, and then when he realizes he fucked up, he wants you guys to try to empathize with him by looking at his past. But who gives a shit about that? Phil judges everything at face value, but he doesn't want to be judged at face value. Wow.
Start blasting loudly. Why am I getting kicked out of a restaurant? I don't understand. Well, maybe you should have fucking paid attention.
Please understand that I'm not toxic. I'm not.
Stinky Penis did $1.30 and says, welcome to my brother Stinky Dookie. This is getting out of control. This is absolutely ridiculous. You guys know how offensive the word stinky is to me. Because people used to call me that when I was a kid. They bullied me and called me stinky. So you know all your names with the word stinky triggers me, and I'm incredibly offended.
Well, this is coming from the same individual who only bathes like 2 or 3 days a week. Keep that in mind. And is constantly sweating and complaining on how hot his, air quotes, office is daily. Keep that in mind as well. But then again, he's the same individual who says, like, 78, 80s, like, really, really hot. Semantics.
Okay? You gotta change those names immediately. Okay. What is my business degree in? Funny business. I got a business degree in funny business. What is going on tonight? What do you ask that question for? Where did that come from?
It'd be much more useful than your business degree.
Out of left field. What's my business degree in?
My real name is Bozo, and I have a big honking red nose and big floppy clown shoes, You know, you guys have been asking me for 2 years what kind of car I drive. It's a clown car.
They actually did get the waterfront correct. It's just that when we were approaching it from Ellie's side, there was no opportunity to see if it was correct. They actually, this is very accurate. Very accurate. So I will give them kudos on that. No one asked? Well, screw you. Leave my stream. Fuck off. Get out of here, you jerk. You wanna be a jerk, huh? That time to be a jerk, you think? No. Tough shit.
Yep, I'm toxic.
Why people be a jerk? Why people be
Another person being a jerk, no one asked that. And why would you think that's insightful? To be honest. I mean, like, just being realistic, like, oh, they got the waterfront right. Okay, fair enough. That's something that you kind of combo into another statement. You don't use that as a standalone and that's it. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Or he could describe how the current waterfront looks compared to the game itself. You know, since he's kind of playing the game in real time. He's not doing that. He's just saying, oh, it's pretty accurate. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit about a worthless throwaway statement?
assholes. Come on. We're here to have a good time. Don't you want to hear about Seattle? I live there. Don't you want to fucking hear about it? No?
Well, sure. You do live there, so you want to talk about how basically the city's in fucking shambles. A new strain of swine flu. No pun intended with that, but that's real. A new strain of swine flu has broken out. Supposedly the police, at least in Seattle itself, is being defunded. You want to talk about any of that shit? The problem with the homeless out there. You want to talk about any of those things? Since anything that you do speak about has to be directly related to the game and or topic that's being spoke about, fair enough. How about we talk about some of those things? How, like, supposedly downtown Seattle's a fucking shamble and shit. You want to talk about any of that? Any of that stuff at all? No? Okay. So much for anything interesting, right?
Then why are you watching my stream? Go watch someone who lives in Hoboken, New Jersey. Hear what he has to say about the waterfront. Oh, it's wet! There you go. Very insightful. Oh, let's see here. The one that got banned to me dollars for the group that was a part of the raid. What do we need to do to get unbanned? It's 5 of us. Are we just banned for tonight? Yes. Yes, because I can't even trust you to not come in here and spam again later. You notice something, guys? I'm going to be honest. I want you guys all to take a look at the stream chat right now. Please do. You got a couple people using a few emotes. Do you notice something? The absence of spam. There's no copy pastas going on right now. No one is out of hand. Everyone's having a good time. You noticed that, right? All I had to do was put my foot down at the beginning of the stream, and we just played almost 30 straight minutes with no annoying shit in the chat. So if people would just abide by those rules all the time, I wouldn't even have to do that. You see what I'm saying?
But why is he so codependent on the chat that he needs to constantly be watching it for basically 30 minutes at a time to make sure there's no spam? It's funny because, back in the day when, a lot of the racism was going on in that chat, he used to look over and then immediately look away and not go ahead and huff up a word. But you get someone spamming some emotes or spamming some copy pastas, and all of a sudden judge, jury, and snorticutioner has to come into play. Seems odd. Seems a bit even hypocritical. Oh well. That is the Dark Geppetto way.
Are actually behaving nicely tonight, and I appreciate that. Okay.
I have to warn you, this is nasty as shit. Okay, like real nasty shit. All right, you ready? 2 idiots.
Okay.
I told you, 2 fucking idiots. That's disgusting. Oh my god. Ah. Oh. No, that's disgusting. That is really nasty. Oh, man. Come on. Terrible writing.
Wait a second. Now, wasn't there a scene, because SnortBucks uses it as a clip every once in a while, as an insert, if you will, in like Yakuza or something, where one man has another man kind of, not necessarily pinned, but cornered against a wall, and it's implied that like either he was going to kiss him or some type of sexual innuendo, and Phil's sitting there laughing about it and almost getting orgasmic over that situation. You got this right here, and we're not even mature enough to be able to keep our shit together, right? We're literally going off the handles for this. Okay, fair enough. That's funny. You would think with all the jokes that Phil likes to make about shit being inserted, he wouldn't feel so bad about this. But, oh well. I thought, for someone like Phil, who is very much a fence sitter with all the things he likes getting shoved up his ass, you would think this would be progressive. Oh well. Semantics.
Most cliche fucking writing possible is what it is. Oh, this is delightful. Neil Druckmann, ladies and gentlemen. Neil fucking Druckmann.
It's Neil Cuckman. Speaking of which, Phil, when's the last time that you and Kat got rough? Just curious. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, when's the last time you got some panty time? I'm sure around one of the days that you bathed, right? Maybe? Kinda, sorta? No comment? Okay, no problem.
Oh!
Benefit.
Oh!
Where we
That is disgusting. Disturbing and disgusting. This is what he wanted in this game. Remember Last of Us 1? All those really gratuitous sex scenes that were in that game? How great that game was because of it?
Phil, you can tell now. You can tell me if this is the case. Are you getting maybe slight flashbacks of what happens to Kat when she's at the gym with Jim? You can tell me, buddy. You can tell me. I understand that you have this issue with Neil Cuckman, and the reason why is because, like Neil Cuckman, you're a cuck yourself, and maybe you watching this scene is you imagining what happens to Kat when a real man gets in there and puts in some work, or what's happening with Panda when a real man gets in there and puts in some work. If you're upset by that, I can understand, buddy. I can't empathize with you because I don't know nothing about that, but I can understand. I can understand your cuckness, if that's the case. It must be hard to deal with, Phil. I get it. I get it. Especially when, and I hate to bring this up, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, ladies and gentlemen, but Panda did say that when they moved from Connecticut, or at least from the East Coast to the West Coast, apparently the sex just dropped off. It's a shame. You would go ahead and take this poor girl and rip her from her family and friends and everything she knew, move her halfway across country, and you can't even dick her down right? Wow. Wow. And then you marry Kat, and all of a sudden your sex drive is just gone? Wow. Must be hurtful. Must be hurtful.
Oh, God. Ugh. Sorry, I'm 100% gay. I'm gay. Totally gay.
And it's not like people didn't already know about that scene prior to the game coming out. And that shit was running rampant around Twitter. So it's not like Phil didn't know about this. Like, the spoilers and everything was all out there. Oh, well. Well, maybe not the sex scene, but I know there was other stuff. I think that was actually in transcripts. I think people had actually said there was going to be a sex scene in there. But I know the majority of the spoilers were already out there. And for Phil to act like he didn't see those things is just, well, fucking dishonest.
Embarrassing. There's the best way to describe that shit. Embarrassing. Pathetic writing and fully embarrassing.
This guy's a bitch. I haven't had sex in ages.
Yeah, I know. It's a shame, though, too, that it happened to Panda, and it's more than likely happening to Kat. The only difference is Kat kind of comes across as she doesn't really want to be touched, especially by someone who doesn't even have enough decency to bathe every day. So, I mean, under reasonable circumstances. But Panda, Jesus Christ, I mean, Panda, she actually wanted it. She still couldn't get the piggy D. Hurtful. Just hurtful.
Well, Eric tipped $5 screaming he's gay, he's totally gay. Good for you, thanks for the $5 tip. Only Ice Coffee resubscribed at tier 2 for 2 months in a row. Thank you for the tier 2 sub. Is finally I can share this moment with you. Oh yeah!
Oh my god! That's great! Oh my god!
It's really something proud to share with everyone on the internet, right? You put a compilation of how people fucking react to that stupid shit. Alright. Resburgu tipped $10. He said, my lord, it was painful to watch. I hope everything is okay. It certainly was painful. I can't believe that Druckmann fucking ruined this shit as bad as he did with the nonsense he put into this fucking game. But anyway, $15. Abby's a shithead because Abby can't get over the murder of her father, has to go after and kill Joel. Ellie's a shithead, she can't get over the murder of Joel, she kills everybody else. Owen's a shithead because he cheats. It's like, everyone's a shithead. There's no one likable in this game. They literally just...
It's ironic that you have an unlikable individual who would say this about unlikable characters. Especially when, Phil, it's assumed, though not proven yet, that you were more than likely talking to Kat while you were still with Panda. Which would theoretically mean that you were kind of cheating, even though your relationship was pretty much done at that point either which way. And you stole another man's horse, and she was still living with that dude, Superman. Which is still kind of fucked up in its own right. But semantics. I just want to throw that out there. Then we're talking about people who can't let shit go. Well, currently in our timeline, Phil is talking about this shit with Evo, and he's holding a grudge against the Cannon brothers, Mr. Wiz, and essentially the West Coast itself, over something that happened 20 years ago. You guys want a little bit more, but a little bit more recent? I got you. Think about his situation with Pro Jared. That was like 5 years ago. 6 years ago when that supposed slight happened. And he's still mad at the Gouty Viper, and the Gouty Viper was still mad and simmering over that. And most people think it's over that little throwaway tweet that Pro Jared did about 2 or 3 years ago. But I posed the argument that it really actually has something to do with that Screw Attack event that Pro Jared and Darkside Phil were at. And when Pro Jared showed up for his panel, everybody abandoned Phil and went over there to the to Pro Jared's panel, except for the few DSP loyalists that were still hovering around him. That right there, which one do you think was the bigger slight, ladies and gentlemen? That little shit on Twitter, or having all your little minions and all these other people kind of checking you out in person, in IRL, at a very big convention, and then it's announced that Pro Jared's, panel is going to be starting soon, and everybody just disappear over there. Which one do you think is the bigger slight? But he wants to talk about people who can't let go. Yeah, boy.
A single character in this game that's likable now. I don't even care. If she right now tripped and a piece of glass impaled her in the eyeball and her brain splattered all over the screen, I would not give 2 fucks. Anyway, Crabcock Teresa, what's your opinion on that last scene? Stupid, 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 fucking stupid. That's my opinion. Neil Druckmann, he's a fucking terrible writer and he ruined the fucking game franchise.
Oh, I'm gay, I forgot to tell you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, here's the scene I was talking about earlier.
Oh,
Look
yeah.
at Phil, he's getting orgasmic to this shit. Wow.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
There you go, Phil. Go ahead and splatter the vitamin D all over your face. Get it all in there.
Oh. Wow. See, I already knew that scene was in the game because there were memes about it. The moment that the game came out, the whole internet was plastered with fucking memes about that happening, saying that that was Neil Druckmann's really immature, disgusting, perverted self putting that shit into the game. He just had to have that scene. He couldn't do it without it. You know?
He might have taken inspiration from your jerk-off stream that happened a couple years ago. You should be proud. I mean, you have one shameless individual basically trying to emulate another shameless individual. Life, art imitates life.
Couldn't even been implied that that scene happened. You had to show it. He's a fucking immature idiot. Like, seriously, okay, The Last of Us 1. Most people hold it up as a modern masterpiece of gaming with writing and everything, right? And was there some immaturity in it? Yes, there was some comic relief, there was some immaturity. How many sex scenes did that game have exactly? 0. 0. Right? And it didn't need them. You didn't need them.
I mean, well, Tess didn't actually live long enough for that. Semantics, though. But that's... So what? Like, obviously the story was going to progress as years went by. Did he complain this much when Ellie and Dana had that scene? Oh, speaking of which, Dana for sure was modeled after Anita. Just to throw that out there. Hence the reason why she didn't die like she was supposed to in the original. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that another time, but Neil definitely cucked out to Anita with that bullshit. Because if you when like the game first, when there was first talks about this game, it seemed like Ellie's girlfriend or love interest or whatever was going to either be raped or raped and killed or just killed or violated in some way. She was going to die. Either which way, that character was supposed to die. And I think Anita went ahead and stepped her ass in there and was like, yeah, don't do that. Kill off Joel. Because in Anita's head, oh, well, Joel went ahead and betrayed Ellie anyway. So we need to go ahead and get that influence out and let me stay and let my character or let this character stay in. Who ended up abandoning Ellie in the end anyway. Sorry for the spoiler. So was it really worth it? It would have seemed more meaningful. Especially in that one teaser that we had forever, where Ellie basically kills those couple of guys. She's in that bedroom playing that guitar, and then the dude walks in, which we end up finding out to be Joel, and he's like, "You think I'd really let you do this on your own?" What do you think would be the motivation for that? Semantics, though. It's funny that you have one cuck crying about another cuck. it's great. Phil and Neil should actually really collaborate on Last of Us 3. The Last Snort.
That shit. You know? It was a game about survival. It was a game about the human condition in this apocalyptic world and how people's lives got so fucked up. This is just like... This game feels like someone on a completely different maturity level in life wrote it from the first game. You know what I mean? The first game was...
You do realize that having sex, though, is kind of a normalizing of the situation. If you're in that type of situation and you're only thinking about survival 24/7, it kind of makes you into a bit of an animal, if you will. You know what I'm saying? The level of normality is having some type of connection with people and in situations being intimate with people. I would assume Phil would understand that if he was having sex on a semi-regular basis. Apparently he's not, and so there you go. That's why. It's alright, Phil. Eventually it's going to come out that you're having problems sexually. As if we don't already know. It's okay. I'll have plenty of laughs for you when that does come out.
The Last of Us 1 didn't need to do that. Didn't need to go to these immature extremes to get its point across, because it was well written. Unlike this game. This game's pacing is completely and utterly fucked up. The flashbacks are incredibly intrusive to everything else going on in the game. Seriously, this game is a pain in my fucking ass. Sniper just tipped me $1.30 and said I'm only 10.
How do you have someone like this have the nerve to complain about pacing? He couldn't even stay consistent in his own life. In general, he can't even keep up with the pace of life. Hence the reason why he begs. But he's got the nerve. I mean, don't be wrong. Like I said, Last of Us, fucking writing's garbage. It's absolute shit. At least the writing that we got. I think what we would have had if Anita didn't go ahead and insert herself into that shit would have made it a different story. But whatever. It's still just fundamentally bad all over. I mean, in actuality, did we really need a sequel? Did we? That, like, Last of Us should have just stand alone, and then that's it. We didn't really need a sequel. And how many people do you really think are going to commit to Last of Us 3 when that eventually comes out? Anyway, that was side note. But how is it that someone who can't even get his own life in order have the nerve to complain about a fictional situation? It's so bad. It's so bad. And unlike most people, Phil has had, I wouldn't say an infinite number of second or third chances or whatever the case may be. He's had a lot of do-overs, if you will. Or he's had a lot of people who were willing to let him ride on their back until he gets himself into a better spot, and yet he still figured out a way to fuck it all up. He can't even keep up with the pace of his stream. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't do anything. If he could talk about WWE champions all day on stream, he probably would. If it wasn't going to expose him. Because if you've seen the screenshots on Detractor Twitter or on Kiwi Farms, there's one more place you can go to. But Detractor Twitter or Kiwi Farms, you can tell that he's very invested, no pun intended. Actually it is, but you know what I mean. He's very invested in WWE champions. And he's very, very invested in the strats and how certain wrestlers are priced and their strengths and weaknesses and so on and so forth. That right there is enough to have a carry-on conversation for weeks, if not months. Won't do it because then it exposes his gotcha game habit, which the vest streak, hence the pun, directly funds. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, but it seems kind of retarded for some idiot to say, every time I get tipped, I use that money to pay bills every day. You're telling me that he ain't spent $17,000 over the span of 3 months on bills? So where's his YouTube money at? Where's the actual Twitch money? Not Twitch contributions. Where's the actual Twitch money going? Where's the Patreon money at? Where's the few shekels from Teespring? Not let alone the behind the scenes donations and contributions that we never hear about. Hence the reason why the Streamlabs tip leaderboard is gone. Think about it.
Years old, what were they doing? Go ask your mom, and then have her contact Neil Druckmann to tell you. I don't understand why this game sold as much as it did. They're saying it's the best-selling PS4 game or whatever. They even sold more than God of War and everything, and that shocks me.
Phil, I was going to bring up a quiff about your mom and her infidelity, but I'm going to let it go. Not to say that I'm beneath doing that. I'm just going to let that go.
I didn't think it would sell that well. I knew it would sell well. Don't get me wrong. I knew it would be a bestseller and everything. I didn't think it would be like the biggest... Oh, fuck. I didn't think it would be like the biggest game. Let me see.
I mean, it wouldn't be if they actually allowed people to return it, but semantics.
Did 100 cheers. Remember when Last of Us was a game about survival in a post-apocalyptic world with zombies instead of a grindhouse film? I think that's exactly, he hit grindhouse. That's exactly the right description for this game. He turned it into a grindhouse film. Raunchy sex.
That's insulting to grindhouse, though. Grindhouse is fucking amazing, but whatever.
Violence, over the top, makes you sick. That's a grindhouse film. That's what this game is. That's what Neil Druckmann wanted to do.
So what makes you sick? The sex scenes or the violence? He's not really, have given us a cemented statement on that. So which one bothers you the most? Inquisitive minds want to know.
Wanted to be Quentin Tarantino.
Well, what's funny is I know so many people were dying to see my reaction to that moment. I don't know what you guys were expecting, but that was like...
The artist formerly known as Secret Life of DSP, or he just goes by Secret now. I think it's on Twitter. If I can find it, I'll insert it in there if I can find it. He actually has the response that people were kind of expecting. It's pretty funny. If I can find it, I'll try to insert that in there.
Probably one of the lows of the game for me. It really was. Like, it made me just, like, not care anymore. That whole, it's like, you gotta be kidding me. Fucking so cringe, so pathetically written. The most nonsensical, cliche nonsense ever. I'm upset, I'm disgusted, I'm incredibly disturbed tonight. No, I'm not incredibly disturbed, I'm just pissed off that this is what the game turned out to be. Just like a lot of people, it's certainly not just me, It's not just me reacting like this.
Yeah, there you go. Go ahead and... Not man enough to stand on your own, so go ahead and bring other people into this. Like, yeah, it's other people that are really upset about it too, and I'm just sharing in the outrage. Good job, Phil. Go ahead and prove that you, Rich, and Monday Matt kind of all fall into this category of people who can't stand on their own and whatnot, and they need other people to kind of justify what they say. Because no one ever wants any backlash, right? You know what I'm saying? It's funny how people like Phil says, oh, everybody's sissies and they're cowards and so on and so forth, but yet he can't make a public statement without other people willing to back it up or other people having that statement already, and he's just co-signing to it. It's almost like something that a whore would do, but semantics.
Some people got to this point a week ago, and it was all over the internet. How ridiculous this is.
What would old school DSP say about modern DSP? Nothing, because old school DSP didn't watch content from other content creators, just like I don't.
That's a liar. He is a liar, but that's a lie too, because what do you say? Angry video game nerd. There's a couple other people that he used to watch back in those days. He watched a bunch of people. He said that in old vlogs, old channel updates. He said that plenty of times. So how the fuck is he gonna sit there and say I've never watched other people? Matter of fact, I've already disproved that in the whole Tobuscus / Toby Turner situation, because he sat there and watched Toby Turner, iJustine, and a few other people who moved from vlogging over to gaming. He said that all of their gaming stuff was garbage. It wasn't funny. It was scripted. And they had way too high production and whatnot, which was squeezing the life out of little guys like himself. And he said that when he watched all their vlogging stuff, it was really good. He felt that they were masters of their trade. So if you're good at that one thing, why would you branch off and do something else? Wouldn't you want to be like the absolute best at the thing that you do? Well, damn, Phil, now that I think about it, no, I pointed that out in the video, but damn, Phil, that makes you a hypocrite, because you did vlogging, you tried to do skits, you tried to do a live action series, you tried to do gaming, you tried to do mukbangs. Sorry, DSP tries it, but essentially DSP tries it like a mukbang, except for he doesn't eat all of it on camera. He tried to do multiple shit and failed at all of them. And then he tried live streaming. He also tried to sell merch. He tried to do live reactions to stuff. He tried shilling. It's almost like he couldn't take his own advice.
I literally would have said Jack Diddley. Although, if old school DSP heard that new school DSP was playing SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom, he probably would have said, well, we know where all the smart people are tonight. I know that for a fact, because that's exactly what I said when someone else was playing the game. There you go. And by the way, I know most of you probably already know how the game ends. Please do not spoil, because one of the few reasons that I am still playing this game is because I want to legitimately see the ending for myself. I don't want to be spoiled on how it ends. If that were the case, if I was so pissed off by this game, that I would just stop playing it and read spoilers online. But I don't want to do that. I want to play through it.
He's already seen the spoilers online, though. We all know that. Because that shit was jumping all over Twitter. And that's where this numbskull gets all of his information from. So he's already seen it. And then, when he said, I want to see the ending legitimately, implies what, ladies and gentlemen? I've already seen the spoilers. So now I want to actually see it through my organic, fun, exciting, inclusive gameplay. You know what I mean? So I can feed the piglets, the pay piggies, this, you know, authentic experience. Come now.
Myself an experience at the end, so I can give you guys an honest review at the end of the game how I feel. So don't spoil it for me, okay?
My spoken word reviews are the best on YouTube.
Alright. Alright. Phew.
Papa Vera comes out with this giant King Kong strap-on. All right, baby, you approved it. Let's do it. Uh-oh. Wait, I meant for you. No. Oh!
Oh no! Oh no! 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 Papa Vera!
Oh, fucking shit.
No! No! Papa Vera!
Ow!
No! No! Papa Vera!
Ow!
Papa Vera! No! No!
Oh, man. Oh, it's delicious. I love that. Pain is pleasure.
Frog Frogger says, when I was in school and they had sex ed, did I just cover my face or hide under my desk? I didn't either. I gave that teacher a nice lean-in manual ban like this! Ah, fucker! Think you're funny, huh? You think you're clever? I'll show you.
Phil has indoctrinated children who send him money, blatantly milking for money. It's a money pit. It's gone.
What a peculiar little man. He really is. Oh shit. Alright guys, I'll see you guys for the next one. I'll see you guys for the next video that will be coming up shortly. See you guys in a second.
Just gone like that. In an instant. Fucking gone. I just care about money. I just can't help it. My eBay. Contributions are mandatory, but I need your help. I am appealing directly to you.
Yeah, show me. Whoa, yeah, here we go. Yeah, baby, you better start my engine. Yeah, that's right. My nether regions. Hopefully you washed your hands after fixing those. Oh, yeah, baby. Yeah, yeah, come on. Bump and grind, honey, bump and grind. I love it. I love the motion capture they did for this game. Yeah, yeah.
how I play the game! Oh my god! What the fuck?
Holy shit! That is an epic fucking intro, dude.
I have to warn everyone. Warning. What you may see right now is going to be absolutely disgusting.
Sound good?
Alright, that's... sounds good to me.
Well, here's how we're gonna...
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're here for the second and last video that will round out our broadcast. Also brought to us by Burnell, DSP. Nintendo is sued, criticizing and exposing Sony. Shills. And, and the paranoia doesn't trust anyone. Yeah, okay, just wanted to make sure. This was also published on, let's see, July 1st of 2020, our current year of gout. Let's get it.
Do it. We talked about this back on Monday, and we figured it out. It's the best of both worlds. All right, it's good for everyone. Today, on this stream, I'm going to have a $100 tips goal. If we hit that $100 tips goal, the vest streak will increase by 1, and I will put on a vest, and that's that. We're good. Now, if people find themselves generous enough to tip more than that, and if we double the tips goal today, let's say we hit 200, then you get a tier 2 reward, which would be like I could put on the gunner glasses or switch vests or whatever you guys want, something silly like that. And the vest streak will increase by 2. So instead of going to 161, it'll actually go to 162. Even though technically it's the same stream, I'm going to treat it as if it's like 2 separate streams. I don't want the vest streak to slow down because I did a marathon stream today instead of 2 smaller streams, you know?
It's gross. It's for this.
It really is, because now that I think about it, every time they hit the tier 2, which is few and far between, by the way, why isn't that counted as a second streak, or a second vest streak notch, if you will, right? But like I said, the greed part kind of already states on that. But think about this for a minute. What about the few times that he made $300 on stream, which allowed him to switch to another vest, right? Why wasn't that actually tallied as another notch towards the vest streak, if you think about it? You know what I'm saying? Because as you guys know, the mythos is that it was 173 is when the actual vest streak died. It actually failed. It actually ended at that point. So you would think when he does at least hit the 3rd tier, if you will, that right there should be added. Because don't get me wrong, he's going to bleed these clowns out regardless, but I mean, at least that should be counted as the tally. But then that would move the vest streak it would move it up a lot further than he would want it to, but bleeding it out, at least in our current timeline, which isn't too far off from where we're at right now, would throw things it would basically throw everything out of whack. It would basically screw everything up. He really did fuck himself over with this. He really did not think this out. He really didn't. Especially now that he's been struggling day after day after day to try to get this vest streak hit. If he had won it, and he keeps hyping up this $200 vest streak, or no, top $200, I'm sorry, this 200 vest streak celebration, right? He keeps hyping that shit up, but yet directly contradicting himself. Let me explain. I'll try to be brief. He said one night that I guess they hit the vest streak early. Like they hit it like not too long after they started the stream. And someone had made a comment about, oh, I was hoping that the vest streak wouldn't be hit until like later on in the stream or whatever the case may be. And he went ahead and ranted off saying, tough titties, this makes things, easier for me now because I have nothing to worry about. I don't have any stress, so fuck you, basically. Yada, 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 yada. Then like the next night or the night after that, he's sitting here bitching and complaining about how it's literally going towards the wire. It's getting down to the wire, and they still haven't hit the vest streak yet, and was forced to go into overtime to do so. He has essentially fucked himself over, because if he had gotten closer to the goal, right? As we get closer and closer to the 200 vest goal, if he was adding these extra, if he would add these extra stipulations that would allow them to hit it quicker, people would be more enthusiastic to do so. But because he tried to bleed it out, as well as try to downplay it for as long as he has, there is no real payoff. And then on top of that, he had said that, oh, I was going to order something for the vest, for the $200 for the 200 vest streak. I'm glad I didn't do it now because I don't think you guys are going to hit it. Then the next night or the night later, he says, oh, I did order something. It cost me $50. So if we don't get it, or whatever, 1 item, 2 items, whatever, either way, it came up to $50. If we don't hit it, I'm out $50. How the fuck are you out $50 when you made $17,000 off this? Excuse me. How does that work? You spent $50 after obtaining 17,000 plus. And then another thing too, where did he get the $50 to actually purchase this particular item when supposedly, wink wink nudge nudge, all of his money is tied up in bills? Remember, all the money that he makes from YouTube, which has been declining for years, all the money that he gets from Twitch that aren't contributions, Teespring, and Patreon, all of that money has to go directly towards bills. But that's funny because he tells us that everything that he makes in contributions daily goes to bills. So where did the $50 come from to go ahead and buy what he needs for the vest celebration, the 200 vest celebration? Matter of fact, why is he trying to convince his audience to buy him a new Switch when theoretically he would have the money to do so? Matter of fact, why does he need a new Switch? Matter of fact, the new Switch, if I remember correctly, troll or not, was offered to Kat, not to him. But he wanted the new Switch, and then she could have the one that Animal Crossing is currently on. Why would he want to pull that? Why can't we just buy Kat her own Switch with her own copy of Animal Crossing? Oh, that's right. She's doing actually all the work on the game right now. Another thing too. Why is it that we have an Amazon wish list and we don't actually have a Switch on that Amazon wish list? Why is that a thing? Because he's already thrown out the gauntlet, if you will. The battle axe, if you will, that he has upstairs and next to the front door. He's already thrown those out there that, hey, if you guys want me to go over the new Xbox and the new PS5, you guys are going to have to purchase it for me. So who gives a shit if he throws another Switch? Who gives a fuck about another $300 then by adding another Switch on there? Just something to think about. Just something to think about.
Not because they love what they're doing. It's not because for the love of the game or because they're true gamers. It's for this. And this is what it's become. It's not about putting out a quality review. It's not about putting out a quality playthrough or quality stream. It's about making this.
If you guys look at the top of the stream, you will notice we have a subscriber goal back for the month of July. That's right, folks. For the month of July, subscriber goal is back. The subscriber goal is currently set to 725 subscriptions. We are currently at 667 subscriptions. So in reality, it's not unreachable at all. Actually, considering the fact that just a couple days ago, we were over 730 subscriptions. It's just that a lot of them expired. If we hit 725 subscriptions at any time in the month of July, it's time for another Viewer's Choice special event.
Oh my god!
But why would anybody want that when he's just gonna rig the polls to play the game he wants to play anyway? I don't know why people keep falling for that dumb shit.
What the fuck? What?
Because he's automatically gonna assume that whatever the top game is that he doesn't want to play, but has the most votes, he's automatically gonna assume that trolls did it. And so, yeah, he's not going to want to play that game. He's going to just pick the game that he wants. And even if that game is like 2 or 3 votes or 2 or 3 rungs in the actual leaderboard, he'll still choose it anyway and just say blame the trolls for everything else. Which is another interesting thing I just thought about. As it pertains to Axe the King, which I plan to go through all 3 of those in I will actually go through all 3 parts, and then obviously we'll do a Snort report about it too, because why wouldn't we? It's funny because he said at the very beginning of Axe the Pig, that why won't people post up questions on his forums? Like, he was very adamant about that. He was like, hey, I don't understand why people are so wary about coming onto my forums and just posting up a question. You know, I don't have any information on you guys or anything, which is a lie. So, you know, you guys, do people not use forums anymore? Well, I'll take your questions on Twitter as well. So at least there, for all of you pay piggies out there, you're learning. Don't go over there and use his forums all day. Don't do that. Go ahead and just put your questions up on Twitter. Going to his forums is a dumbass idea. Because if he don't know shit about you and you don't donate to him, then he doesn't know anything about you. If you donate to him, he knows you. He can readily look up your information. You go onto those forums, you register to his forums, which is what you have to do, right? To post up there. Him and his webmaster are gonna find out who you are. It's not worth it. Put that shit up there on Twitter so you can actually kind of be anonymous, so to speak, or make a burner Twitter account, whatever, and post up your questions there, and that's it. He's starting to realize that however much money he's spending on those forums each and every month or each and every year to keep them up, it's starting to be a waste of money. But he don't want to let it go, because the moment he loses dominion over that shit, or its domain, a detractor is going to come and pick that up, which is the reason why he still holds on to the King of Hate forums. I remember someone had asked me that recently and whatnot on Twitter. That's the reason why. He doesn't want another detractor coming in and picking it up. So, or at least that's my reasoning behind it anyway.
Oh my god.
This tired old man. Someone go ahead and grab him his Depends and put him to bed.
Oh man. Oh.
If you guys don't know because you don't have a Switch, well, basically consider yourselves lucky because those Joy-Con controllers that come with the Switch suck ass. They have many issues, and one of the major issues with them is a Joy-Con drift issue where the little thumbsticks continue to just move in a direction despite the fact you're not touching the thumbstick in that direction. This has been a known issue since the launch of the Switch that Nintendo has never addressed nor done anything to fix. Most people who play their Switches full-time end up running out and buying third-party controller attachments, another standalone controller. Anyone who takes the gaming seriously on the Switch says, man, these Joy-Cons suck ass, I need to go buy something else.
Phil hates Nintendo. No, it's the opposite. I love Nintendo.
Phil never went ahead and bought a third-party controller for the Switch. He got his pay piggies to do it.
Nintendo games and what they do with their stuff.
Now, like I said, most people sweep Nintendo issues under the rug. They just give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt. They fanboy out and say, whatever, Nintendo can do no wrong. And I've always said that's the wrong approach to have. That if you keep giving a company a pass, they will never, ever have any reason to improve. Why improve a product? Why improve the way
A lack of self-awareness there. But the same thing can be said for him. And yet people keep giving him passes on both sides of the fence at times, or at least in the past. And look at where it got him. Womp womp.
make a game? Why improve your mentality as a gameplay development company if people just like everything you do no matter what blindly, right? And that's why I've absolutely never agreed with people who are blind fanboys of any console or any company. I think that it's counterproductive to them being creative and improving things over time. Sadly...
isn't that ironic? Shawn Michaels' voice.
Nintendo is one of those companies that just kind of thinks their shit doesn't stink. And when things go wrong, they go wrong. You know, in this case, this is the first time I feel in quite a long time that Nintendo is actually being called out for their bullshit. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Nintendo is being sued in a major class action lawsuit in the United States.
Oh my god! Fuck you, Nintendo! Fuck you, Nintendo! You suck! You don't know what the fuck you're doing anymore, you dumb fucks!
People got together and said, this is scientifically documented that the Joy-Cons are garbage. They all have this Joy-Con drift issue. If you don't have the Joy-Con drift issue, you're basically lucky, okay? You lucked out and got one of the minority functioning Joy-Cons. Nintendo has refused to do anything to fix the issue. It would have been one thing if Nintendo said, okay, we admit there's an issue. Let's issue a recall on the Joy-Cons and we'll do a free repair job for all of you or whatever, right?
First off, like I said, I'm going to come out and tell you guys right now, myself and anybody I know haven't had that problem. Now, does that problem exist? Absolutely. There are videos on Twitch, there are streamers on Twitch as well as on YouTube that talk about that shit all the time. So it is what it is. It's not like, you know, it's not a thing and whatnot. But he's trying to make it seem like it's way more widespread than it actually is, at least as far as I know. That's the first thing. Secondly, Xbox and PSN controllers have that problem too, and whatnot. Now, I don't know exactly to what extent, if you will, as it compares to those other companies respectfully, but almost whenever a new controller comes out, there's something a bit buggy about it. And none of them ever do a complete and total recall and refund them for this. So why the fuck would he expect Nintendo to do something like that when their competitors won't do that? Plus, the amount of money and everything that would the amount of money that would require to do the recall, I would assume outweighs the amount of people. Yeah, I would assume that. I assume the amount that's going to cost to do a recall would outweigh the amount of people who complain about the actual defective product. So then they wouldn't do anything about it. Basically, Fight Club logic, to an extent. And there are plenty of other aftermarket add-ons that work just as good, if not better, to be honest. Phil actually did a review on one of those, a product review, if you will. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We're getting real hypocritical with this dumb shit. So, you're being very unrealistic from a business standpoint on how business works and how business would be able to conduct themselves. And especially when it comes to, out of the big three, Nintendo has to do a lot of catching up. Like, you got to understand, Nintendo and whatnot was in a real ugly spot for a little while, and they need to recoup. Like, they need to really recoup, and they've been doing all right with that as of late. So shelling out even more money would only push Nintendo back even more. Many years it could be. And I'm not saying that there's going to be a new Switch somewhere down the line. I wouldn't expect to see another console out of Nintendo for at least 5 years. But in case it does, that could hinder development by a lot. You know what I mean? And that with, the PS5 already, I mean, really from Jump Street was kind of reported to be underpowered. People are still kind of in the dark about Xbox to an extent. I mean, Nintendo doesn't need this problem right now, is what I'm just trying to say.
They refuse to do that. They absolutely refuse to do that. And because of that, very sadly, nothing ever improved. So people sued them.
Fuck you, Nintendo. Yeah? You fucking own me?
I love that screenshot. That shit is fucking hilarious. Fucking hilarious. Especially when the only reason why this cocksucker is doing this shit is because that's when Nintendo started that initiative where if you wanted to profit off of your Nintendo content, you had to go through them. Now keep in mind, this cocksucker here was with Machinima. So Machinima circumvented all of that and was basically stealing money from Nintendo. He doesn't necessarily come outright and tell you that. He just says, I'm under Machinima, so I'm protected. But for all these other Nintendo content creators, they're fucked. They're fucked. They're not as privileged to have a managed partnership like me. They're screwed. But I'm not. But it's insulting that they think they can do this to gamers. He basically tried to come out and project gamer outrage over a situation that didn't even affect him, I should say. It ended up fucking him over later on after he left Machinima, but semantics.
Fuck you. Because that's where it fucking belongs, in the fucking trash. When a company tells you that they're more important than you and they own you, that's what you fucking do with them. Fuck the Wii U and fuck Nintendo.
And it's that type of behavior is one of many instances that prevented him from being where he could have been. Because like it's in a Tekken video. It might be in the Autistic Illuminati actually, where he's reading over is it Radbrad? No, is it the Rad? He's reading over his Twitch longer, which he didn't even have to make one because, as far as we know, he didn't do anything wrong. But he was reading over his Twitch longer, and he was reminiscing about a situation where he actually met Darkside Phil in person, and he talks about how the E3 that him and John went to, and how much potential Phil could have had. Now, I haven't done that video yet, but I will counter that on multiple fronts. once I get there. But Tevin actually agreed with Rad on that and saying, well, it's amazing where Phil could have been. I do agree with that. I would say there are instances in the E3 videos, though, with him and John, where Phil was not exactly ingratiating himself to some of the publishers. He wasn't really kind of stepping out of his comfort zone to actually talk to these publishers and try to build a rapport. He wasn't really asking questions. He was acting like a consumer. And for Phil to be what people think he could have been, you can't think like a consumer. You know what I'm saying? You have to get yourself out of this particular mindset. You know what I'm saying? You need to ask the type of questions that a consumer would want to ask themselves, but you have to present it to them in a different angle, right? Because if not, they're just going to go ahead and give you the bullshit chill spin and then off with you. Also, your attitude just in general needs to be different. And Phil is not business oriented, nor is he approachable. These are two things that work against them. They always have. But anyway, when we get there, and I'll tell you guys, I'll kind of show you guys what I mean. But even outside of that, he did have plenty of opportunities, and he fucked it all up. He had, as much as I hate to say it, he had a platform where he could have truly been a voice, if you will, for the, as Phil likes to say, the Joe average person or the Joe Smo type guy. And he let his ego get the best of him. And the reason why that is because Phil's a fucking loser. And like any loser, when you give them a little bit of money and you give them a little bit of publicity and even a little bit of influence, one of two things happens. Either A, they straighten up and they look outside of themselves to try to help the greater good, meaning people like themselves, people who feel like they don't have a voice, or feel like they don't matter, even though they have something to say. Or you scratch all that bullshit and you go and you live for self. And that's what Phil has done his whole life. And look at where it's got him. Just something to think about.
Nintendo came out with a statement yesterday. Now, just so you guys understand, the reason this is a story is because Nintendo never does what they did yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday Nintendo publicly apologized, acknowledged fault.
And this goes back to, as Tevin as well as other detractors have named, this apology fetish thing that he has. Which is really strange that someone who doesn't apologize himself, or if he does, it's half-assed and it's beyond the fact. Like, no one gives a shit when he does it. He sits there and will gloat about other people or other businesses coming out to apologize. Like, he does that shit all over the fucking internet. And it's weird. It's really fucking weird that a person who can't apologize himself demands others to apologize, and when they do, he feels like this is noteworthy, or this is business, or not business, this is newsworthy type, like a newsworthy type topic. It's really, really strange. You know what I mean? Yet, he never apologized over the Pro Jared situation. He just recently came out and did that half-ass apology over Justine, and that's only because people started tagging her on Twitter about it. I don't know if she's actually said anything back. If Justine's smart, she won't. You know what I'm saying? But he just now starting to do that shit. Like, he literally is trying to clean up messes from so many years ago that those people don't know him, don't remember him, or don't care about him either which way. You know what I mean? Like, even the Pro Jared thing didn't hurt Phil. Pro Jared's almost back to where he was before he came out and announced that he was divorcing his wife. He's almost back into position. Almost. Where's Phil at? Still gloating about two tweets that he said went viral, and that's it? And as soon as the hate mob against Pro Jared stopped, or Pro Jared presented enough evidence to disprove some of the more damaging statements that was made against him, Phil immediately stopped like everybody else. But if he was so justified, then why'd you give the fight up?
And said that they're going to do better.
Wow!
Personally, myself, I can relate. Because when I started on YouTube 10, 11 years ago, I thought my shit didn't stink. I thought I was Mr. Popular. I was doing everything right. How dare anyone ever tell me I'm doing something wrong? And if you criticize me, I'm going to publicly shame you on the internet for it and laugh at you and deride you. Fast forward many years later, I have definitely learned.
I
Oh
changed.
yeah, I'm sure you have definitely learned. One, big ups to Snort Burnell for basically showing how Phil ain't sat there and turned the topic into himself, because that's all Phil ever really gives a shit about is himself. And two, yeah, I'm sure you did learn. You lost everything. All you have left is this group of cucks, and that's it. Nothing else. And even then, they're slowly starting to splinter off. You have nothing. And all those years ago when he could have fixed this, or at least salvaged some of this bullshit, he chose not to. He basically was like, fuck you guys, I don't need you. I'll get new blood in here eventually. So fuck off. He kind of says that now when he bans people off of his Twitch streams. Oh, it's no big deal if I ban 5 or 6 of you or whatever the number is, because new blood will come in eventually. Problem is the blood ain't dried up. Going back to my malnourished vampire statement that I like making. That's exactly what he is. He's suckling at victims that are almost tapped out. You guys saw what happened when Brightside Viking damn near gave his last, couple of cents all those years ago. It's going to happen to some of these guys too. The only thing that you can hope for is a few of them will wake the fuck up before it actually happens. Guess we'll have to wait and see.
Myself, I evolved. I became a full-time beggar.
For those in the stream chat spamming bullshit about Wings of Redemption, stop now. Because if you keep it up, I'm just going to time you all out. This is not a Wings of Redemption stream. This is my stream, and if you don't like that, you can go watch Wings.
Oh, Wings. Actually, let's go ahead and divert off that for just a second, and let's talk about Wings. So, as I'm sure most of you guys know, Wings got married in secret. It's been married for about a month or so, a little over a month. But in more recent news, Wings decided to completely nuke his fucking channel, his YouTube channel. Everything's gone. Now, excuse me, there's some debate that shit's actually privated. But he's come out and said that he actually deleted everything off his channel. His reasoning for that is, in his new relationship, air quotes, because who knows how much of that is real and how much of it isn't, he says that he doesn't want some of the old things that he said and done to come back and haunt him. Or to interfere with his current relationship, I guess. And he also said that he wasn't making any money off of his YouTube channel anyway, so who gives a shit? Because he's not with an MCN anymore. Jordy, fucking idiot. Why don't you just... You should have a Google AdSense, but if you don't, that's fine. Just open up a Google AdSense and there you go. And you could have monetized your videos that way. You should have did that years ago when you left Machinima, or when Machinima dropped you, however that worked out. You should have... And I don't know why you never went to another MCN. I thought you did, though, for a little while, but whatever. Why didn't you just open up a Google AdSense? Matter of fact, once you got dropped from Machinima, you would have had to get another Google AdSense. You would have had to have opened up a Google AdSense, so you could go to a new MCN. Because I think right around the time he got dropped, or at least before he got dropped, MCNs on YouTube had initiated that you need to have an active Google AdSense account anyway. Reasoning for that is pretty straightforward. They wanted to keep track of who's making money on their site. So it kind of made sense. We actually kind of discovered that and kind of flushed that out, meaning the detractor community in general. When Phil had his bullshit, when he tried to jump from Curse to Laveria and then try to jump back to Curse. So we kind of already know how that plays out. I don't know why Jordy did that. That was ridiculous. But before you did that, Jordy, there was a particular situation that you had between you, White Boy 7th Street, and Woody's gamer tag that goes back like 7 or 8 years, where you guys were beefing, where White Boy and Woody were beefing over a Minecraft stream, or a Minecraft account or some dumb shit. And then a few years after that was the situation between Woody's gamer tag and 402 Thunder, and you had some comments on that. It's a shame that all those videos are gone, except for the fact that I have those videos. And I was planning on going over those And now I'm definitely going to go over them. And don't be a dick about it, because it was a pretty interesting topic. And it's a shame that you just didn't come out and tell Woody you didn't actually know what the situation was, or you had known 402 Thunder for quite a while, and you were just trying to help him out in the algorithm. All that extra shit that allegedly happened around 402 outside of that, you had nothing to do with. And I know you kind of tried to explain that, but you didn't do it well enough, and so on and so forth. That and Woody was being a bitch about that shit anyway, to be honest. He knew that. He really knew that. Anyway, we'll touch on that when we get there. But it's a shame that Wings nuked his channel. Hurtful. Very hurtful. I'm sure somebody has a lot of that stuff archived somewhere else, but we're going to the point of nuking channels to cover up shit. Not good, Jordy. Not good.
I see this stupid shit constantly in my stream. I have nothing against the guy. I don't want people constantly making fun of him and talking about him in my stream. Alright? Throwing down the law.
That's right. This is the United States of Phil. I am the supreme being. I make the rules, and what I say goes. This is not a place for you to stand on your soapbox and complain about censorship and freedom of speech, because the bottom line is you don't have freedom of speech. This is my land.
The Last of Us 2. Ridiculous amounts of people ran out and bought the game because of this overly hype review system that said the game was 10 out of 10, and within a day of the game actually being on the internet, being played, people slammed the fuck out of it with negative reviews, saying the story is one of the worst written stories they've ever seen ever. And this game did not deserve any of its praise. Not to say the game is the worst game ever, and not to say the game's a piece of donkey shit, but that the game is not the best game ever. The game does not deserve a 10 out of 10. It has tons of flaws, and a lot of people don't like this game because the story is not in line with what they were expecting from The Last of Us Part 2. Okay? That is a fair criticism. Someone has a right to not like The Last of Us 2, but Sony doesn't think so. Because here's the...
Like Nintendo, like Sony, like yourself in a lot of ways, you can't handle criticism. They can't and you can't. Because people have been slamming Phil for years about how garbage of a person he is, how garbage his content is. They've been abrasive assholes like myself, or they've been reasonable individuals, or they've just been people who've been like, hey, this is just my opinion in general. And he disregarded all that shit and went ahead and and threw us, or made a blanket statement about basically anybody who's ever criticized him about anything. He just put all of us into that same situation. Just like Nintendo. Just like Sony. Just like Cuckman. You're no different. You're no different. I'm not saying that he doesn't have a right to make his statement, even though his statements aren't really his. They're just shit he saw on Twitter. Semantics. But at the same time, though, too, maybe you should look a little bit closer at yourself. Under reasonable circumstances, of course.
The true news story for today, folks. Polygon wrote an article yesterday speaking about another gaming news source, Vice. Now, I guess Vice is an independent journalism website, and apparently Vice usually is very leftist. And what I mean by that is they're very supportive of LGBT plus rights and representation, okay? So, Vice received an early copy of The Last of Us Part 2 and reviewed it fairly. And actually critiqued it fairly. They didn't give it a number score, by the way. But what they did is they reviewed it and basically said they didn't like the game because of the writing. They thought that the story of the game was shit. But they did like other elements of the game. It was actually, from what I'm to understand, it's a pretty fair and balanced review. Okay? So they reviewed this game, The Last of Us 2. They're one of the few outlets who gave it a negative review. Most other outlets...
How did we go from... they gave it a fair and balanced review, giving it criticisms and then praising it, to saying they did make negative comments about this game? And what the fuck does a number score have to do with anything? You don't necessarily need one. If you need to simplify for people, I guess, but if they can read between the lines, then they understand what it is and what it isn't. Semantics, though.
Just overwhelmingly, shiningly positive. Vice is one of the few. Alright? And what happened? I'll tell you what happened. Sony, not publicly, behind the scenes, Sony contacted Vice and said, hey guys, what gives? Your review is like really negative, and it's not in line with everyone else, so we want to talk with you about that.
You're talking like that's something new. That's nothing new at all. Matter of fact, doesn't Phil calls people who shill for companies shills, right? He does know that there are influencers, right, who have admitted that companies that they've worked with, I should say, or they've been sponsored by, if they had a negative, because all those people ever said, they always said negative. They never said I had given them a critique, if you will. I thought the product was bad, and I said the product was bad. And yeah, a representative always reached out to me and said such and such, such and such. Let me give you an example. I can't think of her name at the moment. I can't think of her name at the moment. My apologies. But she was close to, or she is close to James Charles, and you know James Charles, Tati Westbrook, and Shane Dawson, and what's that other guy's name? What's that other guy's name? Fuck, I can't think of the other guy's name right now. Jeffree Star or whatever. She used to work with one of these guys or whatever, or one of these individuals, I should say, and whatnot. They had a close relationship, so on and so forth, whatever. And I guess one of them had a pallet that was sent out to her. This was years ago. Had a pallet or had some products sent out to her and whatnot, and they wanted her to basically go over it and give her opinion of it. So she did, and she sent it to them, and she sent it to them, and they were like, "Okay, that's fair. Well, if you want to, we'll send you another pallet. If you want to go ahead and make a video about it, go ahead." She was like, "All right," and she was like, "Okay, well." She made the review over it. She was like, "This one's a little bit better," or she's like, "This one's better." She never mentioned the first review. She's like, "This one's better, but I still see some issues," so on and so forth. And then her video got pulled down. Like, I think she said it got pulled down less than a week later. Then she was reached out to by whoever the individual was, or at least by their representatives, and they're like, "Hey, we understand what you did with the first product. The second product, you said it was pretty good. We'd like for you to emphasize what's good about this product and not necessarily the more negative aspects of it." And she's like, "I get it, but the negative aspects are that need to be addressed if you want this to be a long-term product." And they went back and forth, and she was like, "Hey, I wasn't paid for any of this outside of you guys sending me products. If you want to go ahead and take me off your product list, go ahead. But I stand behind what I say." And a bunch of bullshit happened, and eventually it all got squared away, and she gets her merch or her swag or whatever the fuck they call it. But that right there is just, and she's just a YouTuber and Instagram kind of influencer. That happens all over the fucking place. That happens in gaming. Like, if you're big enough, right? If you're big enough and an influential enough individual, and you come off slamming some shit, more than likely someone's going to reach out and have something to say, or they're going to want to ask you more questions on what it is about it that you don't like, and would you reconsider revising what you've said publicly, especially if you've done it in video form or in a tweet or whatever the case may be. Look at what happened to Scump recently. He sat there and came out and said on that dude that used to own Optic until he fucked that up. He came out and said that, hey, if it wasn't for Warzone, Modern Warfare is fucking garbage. It's a throwaway game. It's terrible. It's horrible. He had no problems and no qualms about saying that shit. Then he gets fined for saying that. He didn't change his statement. He just was like, he took his fine and he has nothing else to say about it, which actually hurts the brand more than what he said initially. But it don't matter, because business only cares about, for the most part, public perception. That's it. How does this mental midget monkey not know that, when his whole air quotes business is based off public perception? Yikes.
Okay? I just want you to think about this for a second, before we even continue on with how wrong this situation is, alright? You're given an advanced review copy of a game and told to review it. You do, and then the people who made it go to you and say, "We feel your review is wrong. How dare you say negative things about our game?" What? Huh? Now just think about how that must make you feel. You asked me for honesty. I gave you honesty. And you told me my honesty wasn't good.
That's funny, because that statement right there was the same thing he said when one of the Cannon brothers put GGPO out and had people on SRK and in the fighting community at large to test it out. and Phil saw all these glowing reviews for it, so he played it, didn't like it, and then went ahead and made a big shit about it on SRK, and then allegedly got banned for it, even though it's possible he got banned for something else as well. Like when Phil gets banned off SRK, because he's been banned a couple times, it's in conjunction with other shit, but semantics. He supposedly got banned for it. He ends up talking to one of the canons in an IRC chat and is like, hey, you asked for honesty, I gave you honesty, and now you're telling me you don't want honesty? And he says, and he quotes, Phil Burnell quotes this, that, oh, I don't give a fuck about that, I'm trying to sell this. I need people to give this fucking amazing reviews so I can sell it, so I can make more money, so I can fund Evo. Quote me on that, because that's a quote from him. How the fuck is this idiot right here really going to sit there and act like this is something new for him? Like he's never heard of this concept before. When he's dealt with this before. Multiple times, according to him. And then, sadly, ladies and gentlemen, there is not a screenshot of this conversation that Phil Burnell, DSP, Darkside Phil, Dark Geppetto, had with one of the Cannon brothers that actually makes the statement about GGPO is less than stellar. And he's only trying to sell it and shill it. Well, he's trying to shill it off to these game companies, these fighting game companies, so he can make money to fund Evo, because Phil didn't take any screenshots of it. Which means what, ladies and gentlemen? Well, more than likely it's a lie. More than likely, it's a lie. And that conversation with the Cannon brother on and Phil's post, I should say, is also getting harder and harder to track down too in the archives of SRK, where that post that allegedly got him banned, that's starting to become a little bit hard to come by as well. Now, maybe, just maybe, I'm off on that time period, and maybe that's the reason why I haven't found it yet, which is possible, but, you know, luckily, unlike Phil, I have friends that can also help me try to track that down. But that post is starting to become a little bit sketchy to find too. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, ladies and gentlemen. It just means I haven't dug deep enough for it yet. Just keep that in mind.
So then you didn't want honesty. Just the very fact that Sony contacted Vice about their review proves that Sony was not actually giving review copies. They were giving advertisement copies. Because the fact that they were so taken aback that someone would say something negative about the game proves they didn't want to hear any negativity. They only wanted positivity. Okay? So, this is 100% evidence that this whole system is corrupt and broken. So Polygon reported on this yesterday. Other internet content creators reported on the Polygon article yesterday. And this caused a big domino effect across the internet. People started commenting on the story saying, this actually happens all the time. This is the first time we've actually seen it publicly discussed, because it seems to us that these people who get early advanced review copies are so nervous that if they say or do anything in regards to this process, they will no longer ever get early review copies. Okay? So, apparently it's a common practice for major companies who make games to then follow up and criticize the reviewers if they give them a negative review.
Why do you think they wouldn't do that? As I said before, that's not just in gaming, even though this idiot's acting like this is brand spanking new, but this is in everything. You find this in gaming, in fashion, you find it in everything. Even people, for example, because we found out that a friend of ours does like movie reviews, like they pay him to go to movies and shit and whatnot, that even that people follow up on him whether he leaves a good review or not. That people follow up with him also. It's just what they do. Phil, no one gets to run around here of influence, of stature, of importance, runs around here willy-nilly and says whatever the fuck they want, and there isn't any type of repercussions or there isn't a conversation to be had because of it. I don't understand how someone who allegedly has signed contracts, who has supposedly been in business-like situations, doesn't realize this. It's different if you reach out to a company or a company reaches out to you and gives you a few games and, hey, if you decide to review it, cool. If not, don't worry about it. Just play it for your own enjoyment. And then someone who's like, hey, here's the game. Here's some money. Tell us what you think. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And the thing is you can't always give just a glowing review of a game. You have to have a little bit of criticism in there because, excuse me, that's what gives it legitimacy. Let me give you another example. When you have companies, any company, Walmart, Target, whatever, just any company in general, when they have the review system online, right, where you can go in and leave a post, some of you guys will see very repetitive type comments saying, "Oh yeah, it's great. Oh yeah, it's this. Oh yeah, it's that. This, you know, this cashier was really nice." They usually don't name them, but the cashiers were really nice, or the place was super clean, or yada 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 yada. After a while, when you see how repetitive that shit is, you come to the realization that okay, most of those are probably bots, and yeah, they probably are. So, for example, when a company is like, "Okay, hey, we need to get our reviews up," have some of the employees, have some of the managers do reviews, and make sure that they're air quotes positive reviews, but also say things that we need to improve on. Right? When you have companies that do this, and they do that, by the way, they do that to have a level of legitimacy to it. That's why not every big reviewer who may completely shit on a game may not actually be contacted. You know what I'm saying? After a while, you kind of have to let shit like that go to not only this way, so you're not ruining the legitimacy of the influencer, but also it shows that, okay, we hear you, we can focus on some of these things. Because if there are real problems with the game or with the Joy-Cons or whatever, you need to actually hear this if you're going to improve on it later on down the line. Just because you don't hear something from that individual doesn't mean that they're not improving it behind the scenes. This is something that should be just general common sense. Semantics, though. The thing is for Darkside Phil, right, is he gets shitted on and he never improved anything. When Phil tells you that my content has gotten better, just because he's castrated himself and has become more boring because he doesn't want to be made fun of and he doesn't want to get kicked off Twitch, doesn't mean that he made changes for the better. It's barely making a change. He did it because he had to. Because he was scared, let alone actually doing it to improve the actual quality of the content. How does he not see this?
How dare you? Why are you saying negative things about our game? You better clarify your position because we feel this is unfair or whatever. Huh?
You got people who just cannot stay out of the drama, alright? And this is real talk. There's people who just can't stay out of the fucking drama. If a review comes out before a game's out, don't fucking read it. There's no point. That's a paid advertisement. If a streamer gets a game early and is playing it a week early before the game comes out, don't watch their stream. Don't support that content. That's a paid advertisement. That's
another thing too. SnortBucks bringing up a very good point here. But this has been a problem with DSP since the beginning, which is one of the many rungs that led to his failure and led to his fall. He is so worried about what other people have. We talked about this a little bit in the Evo video. He's so worried about what somebody else has instead of focusing on himself that he'll literally fuck up anything. He's sitting here drumming up all this drama and all this outrage, which is really somebody else's outrage, by the way, to get himself interjected into the conversation to get more attention. The problem is, ladies and gentlemen, at least fundamentally, one of the issues is that Phil is doing this with a purpose that doesn't jive or that is not in line with the overall statement or the overall outrage that's being spewed. And you saw that kind of in the last video, or at least in the beginning of this one of the two, where Phil is like, "Oh, this situation happened, it's really messed up," and then he injects himself into that situation. "Oh, this has happened to me as well," so on and so forth, thinking that if he can inject himself into the conversation, it makes it a little bit more relatable. But then it gets lost. But then the whole message gets lost in translation because it turns into another DSP pity party, which Phil says, "Oh, my haters and my trolls and my detractors and everything always say that I do this," because you do. You're constantly making it about yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like when Etika ended up, you know what I'm saying? When Etika's deaf and whatnot. "Oh, memes are hurtful. Look at what they've done to me." Which is kind of what Alinity pulled, except for, actually it was what Alinity pulled, because she name dropped the guy who died and then made the whole goddamn thing about herself. Which is lol cow type shit. Which is why people don't take you seriously. And it's the reason why people keep punching down on him. Because that's kind of what it is. They're constantly punching down on him because he constantly says stupid shit. And more importantly than all of this, ladies and gentlemen, none of this affects him. Want some proof? I can give you that. Mario Sonic Winter Olympics. If people in his chat didn't shit on him for spending $60 to play that game, if we would have never have known that he actually got a reviewer code for that, and he still never reviewed the game, I don't think. But we would have never known that it was a review code. And so people would have thought, oh, Phil actually spent $60 on that game, and that was a really shitty game, and that people might have actually felt bad for Phil and been like, hey, here's another $60 to recoup your losses, or whatever the case may be. Phil's as dishonest as any corporation, to be honest with you. He's just not as smart as they are. So he's quick to go ahead and point out their flaws, their shortcomings, their missteps, but in a lot of ways, just on a much smaller scale, of course, Phil does the exact same thing. Daily. What makes him any better? Just something to think about.
Fair gameplay stream. That's not a criticism. That is an
And one more thing, which goes back to my actual original point. Phil, because Phil can't be honest and tell you if he's getting a review copy or an early copy or whatever, because people have been shitting on him for years for that, he feels that, oh, well, it doesn't need if it's not going to work for me, it shouldn't work for any of them either. Everybody should just go ahead and play day one and make it fair. But it wouldn't be fair for Phil, because if it was day one, people would have those games out immediately. Immediately. What time does Phil Burnell get up in the morning, ladies and gentlemen? 10? Like 9:30, 10 o'clock? Maybe 10:30? You know what I'm saying? Well, let's say 10 o'clock. He's not going to... By the time he gets up, there'll probably be people that are already halfway through the game. By the end of the day, the ending will already be out. And he'll still be behind the ball. So, what is that going to help him? And then, Phil is such a whore that he's shitted on reviewers and influencers for years. Now he's dependent on those people, on whether he should spend other people's money to buy that game and play so he can make money off them or not. He doesn't even make an active decision to play games anymore on whether he's going to like the game or not. It's about what other people think of that game. And then he decides from there. So he's literally trying to abolish a practice that he is dependent on.
Advertisement. A lot of people can't even criticize the games they're playing early. Alright? I mean, I'll be honest, just like any other normal human, yes, am I jealous of certain people and of people who are successful and whatever? Of course I am. Of course I'm going to have jealousy. That's a natural human emotion for those who have more than you. You're always going to have that natural kind of jealousy of those who maybe have, been more successful or things like that.
2 years ago, I strongly criticized people who got a copy of State of Decay 2 early because they publicly said we're not allowed to criticize the game when we play it because of a review embargo. Then don't play the game. Stop being a fucking paid shill and be someone who actually wants to put out meaningful content for your viewers. Stop taking paychecks and actually do the right thing instead of being a scumbag and basically completely giving free advertisement to these companies, right? It's fucked up. This whole system is fucked up. All right?
This practice is underhanded and evil, immoral, fucked up, and people need to stop this shit.
Yet it's a practice that he's partaken in. He still partakes in it. He gets influencer copies, he gets review copies. Just because he doesn't disclose it or just because he chooses not to play those games doesn't mean that he's absolved of any of that. He has an active responsibility in that too. The next time a company reaches out to him by email and says, hey, would you be interested in playing our game? We're going to send you a code. Tell them no. And I'm not saying he has to say that publicly on stream or in a video. Tell them no. But Phil can't do that because Phil can't pass up a free lunch. So fuck him.
Stop giving attention to early reviewers and early streamers because it's just irresponsible, immoral, and it's only done to promote and give free advertisement. It's not legit content at all. You show your toxic jealousy and just how petty you fucking are when you react to something like that.
That's my take on it. Alright? So I don't know if we'll have any more follow-ups to this story at all. This might be the end of it, because it seems like every single time that there's been a criticism of The Last of Us Part 2, Sony and Naughty Dog sweep it under the rug. Oh, that's because people don't like lesbians. That's because LGBT plus scares people and they can't handle that that's a major part of your game. No, people don't like the story of your game because Neil Druckmann wrote it horribly. The game is disjointed. The game's a fucking clusterfuck mess. The game has a completely different tone and vibe of the first game. You kill off major characters from the first game who everyone loves about.
Yet again, the story is pretty shitty. The story is kind of shitty and whatnot, for sure. And as it having a different vibe from the first game, it's supposed to. Because time moved on and we're in a different time period. So I don't know why he has such a hard time grasping onto that. This is really simple shit. But then again, this also exposes, yet again, someone who is consistently living in the past, and he's very resistant to change. He can't move on. Which is funny, because that's one of his little catchphrases. You guys need to move on. I don't do that anymore. You know what I'm saying? I'm better now. You know? I'm more in the modern era now. Or marinara, as I like to call it. Because that's what it sounds like when he says it. And yet, he can't do it himself. I can't remember how old Ellie was in the first game, but did he expect her to stay that way forever? If that's the case, that's kind of creepy, Phil. Just throwing that out there. That's kind of creepy. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Loves and cares about within the first few hours. There's a million reasons to legitimately criticize your game. It has nothing to do with LGBT+. You're just a fucking piece of shit for trying to create a straw man argument and trying to pretend that you're above criticism because you put liberal issues in your game. Fuck off.
Sounds like one person criticizes someone else for doing the exact same thing. Just did it in a different way.
The Italian, I don't know. That Italian is pretty damn salty. It's very, very salty.
This is how I play the game. Tip me $1. I'm literally just going to read it and then move on because it's very stupid. He says, I don't know why you keep throwing out conspiracy theories about video game reviews. It's been proven false multiple times. It's never happened. No one's ever proven me false. Also, like, who cares, man? Someone has a different opinion than you on a game, man. That doesn't mean they're kissing ass, man. They just like that game a lot, man. Well, the dude.
That last point is a fair point. But Phil's always been that way, though. If you ever have an opinion that differs from him, you're automatically looked at as the enemy. Phil's been about that on everything. There are very few times that Phil will actually take the hoof and be like, hey, okay, you make a good point. Or the piggy knee, I should say. And say that, okay, you make a good point, and so on and so forth. But then he'll just talk himself into a circle back to his original point, and there you go. But Phil's always been that way. That's why he doesn't like talking to people in real life or in IRL. Because he's scared, because he can't react to people the way he wants to if they have a different way of thinking or a different viewpoint than him. Which makes me believe that him and Catherine don't spend nearly as much time with each other as he says they do. Whether she's a potato or not, I feel like she does have her own ideas on how she sees the world itself. And it's surely going to be different from how Phil's is. And it's funny because the last one, who had a different idea of how the world worked and how she saw it compared to Phil, she picked up and left. Which means, and Phil being that type of slow individual who learns his lessons in a very slow and mediocre type of way, he's not going to say too much, or he's not going to engage into too many conversations with her in the fear that she may say something or she may agree differently, and that might get into an argument. And then I think in a lot of ways, her possibly choosing to pick up and leave him. I think he's that scared and he's that much of a cuck. Time will tell, but I don't think it's too far off the mark.
All I have to say to you is, you're welcome to your own opinion.
Which goes back to a theory on how Phil spends his money, and more importantly, how Kat spends her money. More than likely, Kat just uses her money for her own devices, and Phil pays for everything, which would make sense, to be honest. And that's something that a lot of people think. So it's almost like he wouldn't say anything to her to upset her, if you will. That's why he likes to come up on his streams and throw all these little sneak disses about her cooking. And every once in a while he does it, especially when he's frustrated or he's mad and whatnot. which usually probably stems from an argument that they had earlier on in the day and him taking cheap shots. But as of late, he's been cleaning that shit up and he doesn't do it nearly as much. I don't know if because he's in fear that maybe she checks out his streams every once in a while, or she can hear him, or whatever the case may be. Maybe he just chooses not to do it just for the fear of it. Who could say? He's a very cucky little individual.
Welcome to mine, and if you can't stand that on planet Earth someone can have an opinion different than yours, you can leave. We got a rocket, it's called SpaceX, it's getting ready to rev. The moon is calling, bro. Alright, last Rambo did a 50-bit cheer. He says, since you criticized early reviews, people are confused because you played Fallout 4 and a game or two early. What is the difference? Sure, I'll tell you the difference. When I played those games early, I didn't have any embargo on me. I was not expected to pull punches, and I didn't. In fact, I remember being very critical of Fallout 4 when it came out, saying, oh my god, the whole crafting system that's new is kind of cumbersome and annoying, and I don't like it. Oh my god, these settlements are so fucking annoying. Oh my god, the graphics are choppy in this place. It wasn't... There was no expectation of overly positive anything, alright? At all.
No one... This also kind of exposes him, too. He thinks that everything needs to be overly positive, and that's really weird. That's a really weird way of thinking. But then again, it coincides a lot with how he wants people to think of him and his content. That's why he air quotes used to be popular, because people were overly positive about him, and that wasn't the case. You were a monkey in a very small cage, or you were a monkey in a very big cage in a very small fucking circus. It is what it is. Like, to be honest, like, there wasn't a lot of people doing what you were doing. So your popularity, in air quotes, was merely a product of circumstance and nothing else. It wasn't about people being positive about you. You were kind of just one of the few, if you will. And given the amount, and I only say one of the few, given the amount of content that he was flushing out, because that's what he was, because his content was shit, and I can say that because my content shit, that he was flushing out and whatnot, and people were able to absorb it because he put so much of it out there. When a review is given, or an opinion is given, he automatically assumes that, oh, if it's overly positive, then it's fake. And if it's negative, it's true, it's real. Well, then if that's the case, then why can't he take detractor, troll, hater, and critic criticisms then if that's the case? And aren't we overly negative? Which is exactly apparently what he's looking for. Oh, so it's okay for you to shit on a company, or a game developer, or a development team, if you will. But it's not okay to shit on him because that can affect their livelihood. What? If I waged a campaign against Capcom, and I did it every single goddamn day, eventually people are going to hear it. After a while, eventually people are going to be like, he makes some okay points. And eventually, someone's going to act upon it. But, so it's okay if I did that to Capcom, but it's not okay if I do that to him. How does that make sense?
It's 2008. When I started on YouTube, that's who I've been. The honest guy.
Watching Phil's stream...
And am I not being honest with what I say? Is Tevin not being honest with what he says? Theo, LSB, anybody, Agent Proper, anybody. Are we not honest in our criticism of it? The Tractor Twitter is honest as fuck about it. Kiwi Farms laughs at everybody, and they shit on everybody. Are they not being honest? Oh, but it's okay for the major companies because they got millions and millions of dollars to protect themselves. But not me, though, because I'm just this guy on the internet. A guy on the internet who flaunted his wealth that allegedly didn't exist until we found out about his bankruptcy. Not that we needed to see his bankruptcy, because we already knew what he had. And he lost all of it. And now, what does he have to show for any of it? What was taken away from you from a detractor, troll, hater, or critic that you didn't piss away yourself, Phil? Give me one thing. Your popularity? Your popularity really didn't exist because it weighed. I argue that the moment he started making money is when his popularity dropped off. But then, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of counter my own point. In actuality, when more people came into the gaming sphere and they were willing to try, and give it their best effort and push the bar. And more importantly, when they were actually playing the game and doing well at it and enjoying it for more than just the money or the popularity, is when Phil got fucked. That's really what came into this whole situation. This whole gaming thing for Phil was always about money. Even when he wasn't making money off of his gaming content, it was always about money. And once money was made in gaming, a lot of people jumped in on it, because who hasn't played a video game before? Who can't go ahead and talk into a mic while playing the game or after the fact and give some commentary on it? Give some insight to either themselves or the game itself. How hard is that? And how hard is it to beat out a piece of garbage who slices everything up into 12 to 15 minute parts at 150 to 200 parts per game and beat him out? I want you to think about that. That's why I like that Justine quote that he made about her getting gangbanged in the EA executive offices. It's funny how she could put out one video and that automatically knocks out like 30 or 40 parts of Phil's playthrough. She can do all that in one video. Yeah, I think if you were Phil, you'd probably be pretty mad at that. Oh, I did all this work by cutting up a video into 30 parts and spamming it online? That was work? Really? Really? Come on, man.
Me $1 and says, I wonder if you could clarify for me, are you saying it's okay for people to get early game copies as long as there's no expectation they'll kiss the game's ass? I don't think, here's the thing, yes, but I don't think people can be trusted.
That's being hypocritical, because now he's literally pushing back the goalpost. But let him continue, because that's literally what he's doing.
You gotta listen to me. Ree!
That's my clarification. If people got early review copies, and there was zero review embargo, it's like, you got it now, you could review whatever you want, say whatever you want, because that's what honest journalists do, I would probably support the practice. The problem is that's the honor system. You're basically putting the trust in the hands of the reviewer that reviewer is going to do the right thing. I don't trust them. You know, I don't. Sorry I don't, but I just don't.
My spoken word reviews are the best on YouTube. Feel us.
But the thing is, though, if there's no embargo, then you wouldn't get penalized for giving a positive or negative review anyway. So what is there not to trust? And then with that being the case, who could trust him? And this is someone who gets review copies of games and doesn't play them, right? Or gets influencer copies of games and doesn't play them, right? And then possibly, this is not exactly a Theo theory, but walk with me on this. He'll get an influencer copy or review copy of a game and sit on that shit for months, and then put it up into one of these little Patreon, or not Patreon, sorry, and one of these, make it a sub goal for a viewer's choice, and maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of those games pop up on that viewer's choice. And maybe that's why he's so quick to go ahead and squash out all these other games that he doesn't have or he doesn't want to spend money on, and go ahead and elevate these games that he does have review codes for, or he does have influencer codes for, and those right there are going to be the games of the day to be played. It's funny how that happens, right? It's funny how in a couple of those polls, if anybody was willing to go back, that you might see a few of those same games keep popping up that Phil keeps trying to shill forward. It's kind of interesting why that's a thing. It's almost as if he already has the game and now he's just ready to play it. And maybe he can convince a couple of idiots to give him the money to buy the game, right? Even though he already has it, and then we can go ahead and push the narrative forward. I'm not saying that actually happened. I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. But semantics, though.
Indoctrinated children who send him money, blatantly milking for money. It's a money pit. It's gone, just gone like that. In an instant, fucking gone. I just care about money. I just can't help it. I eBay. Contributions are mandatory, but I need your help. I am appealing directly to you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, give me a second to go ahead and square all this up, and we'll reconvene for final thoughts, and I'll let you guys go on with your day. See you guys in just a second. Thank you very much to Burnell for just being Burnell. Very much appreciated. Alright guys, so closing thoughts. Let's see here. Alright. Okay, the overflowing toxicity. And mature and reacting to the Abby scene. I think personally, well, I've been saying this for a while, and I'm sure other people have been saying this as well, that Phil has been purposely making his videos or his streams boring and his content boring to try to deter detractors from reacting to it. If that's not incredibly obvious now, it may never will be, but I think that's pretty fair to say that's what the situation is. I think the Abby situation is no different. I think he saw what that shit is on Twitter, and he was like, oh shit, if I give the haters what they want by giving what I really think about this, that could fuck me over or make me look bad or make me think that I'm against, you know, whatever. So he went ahead and downplayed the dumb shit. I mean, don't be wrong, he showed his disgust for it, but he didn't come out honestly and say what he said because he's scared of getting canceled at any given time. Because he a bitch. So it is what it is with that. But like I said, I believe the artist formerly known as Secret Life of DSP actually has his own renditioning of what that should have looked like. So if I can find it, I'll go ahead and send it over. Hopefully, it can get added in. As it pertains to constantly complaining about the game, it's somebody else's outrage, and he's just going ahead and spewing it off. Pure and simple. He's been on Twitter enough to see that shit. He knows what that is. He knows what that's about. So I can't even take him seriously. Nintendo being sued, he's had a hard-on boner against Nintendo for a long-ass time, which kind of contradicts what he said about Abby, Ellie, and in the whole plot of Last of Us 2 about all of it is about revenge and people can't let it go. But look at what he's doing. He's been shitting on Nintendo forever and hasn't let that shit go. Nintendo never personally hurt him. So it is what it is. Him criticizing and exposing Sony, yet again, outrage from somebody else. And then, let's see. The paranoia doesn't trust anybody. He's paranoid because of himself. He fucked himself over with that. At the end of the day, that's the reason why he leaves his house once a day. It's not necessarily because he's lazy, ladies and gentlemen. It's because he's scared. He's scared of the world out there. That's why he only leaves his house with Cat. He don't leave the house by himself. You know what I'm saying? And when the last time he did leave the house on his own, which was usually at the cover of darkness, if you will, or late in the day, was not long after Panda left him. He would only leave his house to either do a DSP tries it, or he did all of his shopping and everything pretty much at night. I think he was getting his hair cut literally right before the place closed. You know what I mean? Like, this is what kind of scared individual he is. And that's just something that you guys have to accept. I'm sorry. That's just something you guys are just gonna have to accept with Darkside Phil. That's just the coward that he is. There's nobody out there looking to really get at him, because if that was the case, they would have got him. At the end of the day, if there's a will, there's a way. And if you want Phil Burnell bad enough, you can get him. That can be said about anybody. Nobody's doing that. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's doing that. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening in. I very much appreciate it. I'll catch you guys for the next video, whenever that may be. Hopefully, sooner than later. Ladies and gentlemen, this is DSP News. Always late, never breaking. Unreliable coverage that you can't count on. Oh, yes! A GTG Networking Productions for the Snort Report, as well as SnortBucks Coffee. I've been your host, /anchor GTG, and I'm signing off. Take care of yourselves, guys. I will see you guys either tomorrow or the day after. Almighty willing. I'll catch you guys later.